Countdown, the first news hour on cable to seriously cover Occupy Wall Street and the Occupy movement, the longest continuously running 8 p.m. news hour on cable, unless you consider Fox News. We're live each night at 8 p.m. And in our third story tonight, Michael Moore has been visiting Zuccotti Park since the Occupy movement first began there in September. He's also been to some of the other sites across the country that have seen similar police raids in the last 48 to 72 hours, Occupy Oakland and Occupy Portland. For now, he's occupying right here. Michael Moore, author of the new book, Here Comes Trouble. Thank you for coming in, sir.
Thank you for having me on this very important day.
Bloomberg got his court order. No tents, no sleeping bags. You're not involved with them per se, but you're involved with them in a larger sense. What should the occupiers do tonight?
Well, it doesn't really matter much what I say. I think that there's
advice.
Well, there's hundreds of people gathering right now in Lower Manhattan. My first piece of advice, of course, is to always remain peaceful and nonviolent. Our strength comes in our numbers and in our different value system that we have, which is one that does not include violence. So that's my first hope. Secondly, you know, this movement is really driven by young people, and they don't suffer fools like you and I have learned that we have to as we get older, and we learn to, you know, all that. But at that age, And so I will anxiously await their direction as to what to do, because I know, first of all, everybody knew this day would come, and so don't think that there hasn't been a plan B and a plan C and a plan D already afoot here. I mean, for just the fact that Occupy Wall Street was in court at 7:30 this morning to get the temporary restraining order in our favor against Bloomberg, that I think shocked a lot of people. That, hey, what happened to all these dirty hippies?
Hippie marijuana smokers sleeping in all night.
They're in court at 7:30.
Free love.
You know, by 9 a.m. we have a restraining order. So, so there is quite an operation afoot here with all the various elements involved, and you're going to see this is only going to increase the movement, not only here in New York, but across the country.
But you tweeted, phase 2 of this massive nonviolent majority movement will now commence. Wall Street will wish they had just left it alone in the park. What is phase 2?
Well, if I told you, I would have to, I would have to have you run for mayor.
Oh, Lord.
No, I think people will begin to see, there will be various calls for rallies, demonstrations, but there will be other occupations. The thing is that eventually, you know, within the next few hours or tomorrow, they're going to have to reopen the park, because the judge has said it has to be open to the public. Well, the public is going to come back to the park. Right. And that includes the protesters. And just as it happened in Oakland, when they moved everybody out of Oakland 2-3 weeks ago, everybody came back. And they had a massive movement this weekend, which I think, I don't know if you've touched on this here on your show, but you know, this is being coordinated by the federal government.
I wanted to ask you about that. Is that yours? Because Oakland was rolled up, Albany was rolled up, Portland was rolled up, New York's been rolled up,
all in the same way.
And poor Jean Quan, the mayor of Oakland, who's like a weather vane in a windstorm out there, admitting she was on a conference call with 18 mayors. This is a plan. Whose plan is it, and who do we assign responsibility to? Well,
there was just a piece that came out from the Minneapolis Examiner a couple hours ago. Where they quote a justice official in the Obama Justice Department who did not want to be identified, but he said that the federal government has been providing logistical and tactical advice and support. They said that it's up to the local law enforcement officer or agencies as to what what to do, but Homeland Security and the Justice Department have been coordinating the sort of advice and strategy and tactics of this, so that because you've seen all the tactics of the police have been the same in every city in terms of how they've done this in the last 48 hours. So this is not some coincidence. This was planned, and I think the question really has to be asked of the federal government and of the Obama administration: why? Why are you participating in this against a nonviolent mass movement of people who are upset at what Wall Street and the banks have done to their lives?
Conveniently, the president can't be asked that question because he was en route to Australia. On the plane, Air Force One, the Associated Press quoted the press secretary, and this is their story. They don't have direct quotes from the press secretary, but he said, in essence, the president hopes the right balance can be reached between protecting freedom of assembly and speech, okay, with the need to uphold order and safeguard public health and safety, because obviously the bubonic plague and all the Occupy protests was beginning to get to be a problem when we lost the entire state of Minnesota or whatever he thinks happened. And they added this in the story. The administration's position is that each municipality has to make its own decisions about how to handle these issues. So Mr. Obama is basically saying what through his press secretary here? You're on your own?
Yes, but he's also saying, he wants it both ways. You know, his administration is obviously helping them to stymie this movement because, look, no politician, regardless of what party they're in, wants the people to suddenly be in charge. You know, for the power to shift from those who are the elected officials to the people who elected them, which is actually the way it's supposed to be, that's a frightening thought. So I can understand why they're inclined to do that. They're no different than any other politician. But because of you know, my support of President Obama, I expect more of him, and I don't expect his Justice Department and his Homeland Security Department to be helping to coordinate the destruction of this movement. Because, first of all, you can't destroy it. So stop. Because the majority of Americans want taxes raised on the rich. The majority of Americans don't believe that you didn't go far enough on health care. You know, you go down the whole list, and the majority now is very much behind the principles of the Occupy movement.
And the practicalities of it. There's a poll this afternoon, New York State public opinion poll. 58% of New York State residents, that's from Albany to Zuccotti Park, A to Z, say that no matter how they feel about what's being protested, the protesters have the right to continue the protest, and they have the right to stay overnight in public parks. So not just well, they're against Wall Street or they're communist or but just the idea of they have the right to be there is overwhelmingly supported in the state in which this has now most recently happened.
That is correct, and I believe that you would find that in most states across the country because people are just happy that somebody has started this. Somebody has gotten up. And again, thank God that it's been young people that have said, you have stolen our future, and we want it back. And we're not gonna settle for anything less.
Just before the raid, the editors of Adbusters, which is the magazine that basically was behind the organization of the Occupy movement, suggested it might be time for the protesters to, quote, declare victory and scale back before winter sets in. A, is that a victory, therefore? And B, did they just, the actions last night, did they just revitalize a movement that was maybe thinking of hibernation for a little while?
No, I think it has completely revitalized it. And I think you're going to see more of this in the coming weeks. It's odd, this magazine that you refer to is in Canada. It's odd for Canadians to be worrying about the winter. So I don't quite know where they're coming from.
They're worried about us worrying about the winter.
Oh, I see. Well, that's very Canadian. They're worried about it.
That's right.
They're very kind, and
they're not used to it down there.
Yeah. No, well, they don't need to worry. I think that you're going to see actions throughout the winter, and I think you're going to see various kinds of actions. This is going to take many forms, in part because there is no, quote, organization or leader of this. That means anybody watching this at home tonight, anybody here who's in their living room, you're sitting in Dubuque, you can start this movement. You can start Occupy Dubuque. You have our permission. There's no permission. No copyright. There's no permission to get, and that may mean something different in Dubuque than what it means in Des Moines. So there you go.
Michael Moore, the book is titled Here Comes Trouble, which is a prophetic title right now on another subject. Thanks for coming in. Safe travels.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Keith.
My special comment on the man who has made Occupy twice the movement and twice the story it was only yesterday. Our hero, Mayor Mike Bloomberg, next.